Thanks for tuning in to the second episode of What's Your Wheelhouse? I'm your host, Megan Bauer, Head of Customer Success at Spinwheel, and I'm super excited to have our second guest here today, Shaul David. Shaul, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi Megan. Thanks for having me. Great pleasure to be the second one on the show. So I'm based in London. I'm an independent finance advisor. I work with banks and partners to build embedded finance propositions and capabilities in all sorts of different places, including Kazakhstan, which is the background behind me. Most recently. Prior to that, I helped build one of the first embedded finance global platforms in Railsbank, and I was a first fintech advisor to the UK government a long time ago. So I've been in fintech for well over 15 years now.
Amazing. Did you take that
Mm.
photo?
Oh no, I did. That's a stock photo. I'm
Ah,
afraid. I
well, it's
don't know if
very
my
useful.
if my camera skills are as good.
Well, that's amazing. I hope we get to hear a little bit about that trip as well. So, Shul, we're super excited to have you here today. Thank you for joining us. So, you obviously have a lot of international presence, a lot of experience in fintech, but your wheelhouse is context trade. So, what should people understand about this right now that they probably don't?
So let me expand a little bit about the context trade and what that means. So this is sort of a change in the power dynamics between banks, embedded finance providers, and their partners. And the premise for all of that is my strong belief that banks have traditionally held a lot of context on their customers, but that context is slowly drifting away, and their data lakes are drying up. And in the old days, in the branch days, banks could have gathered the context about their customers very easily. People in the branch could just ask customers, "How are you? How's your family? How's your business?" And get information that goes well beyond what's on their books. And then the app era sort of digitized the product, but it did not digitize the context with it. But now we're going into the sort of the embedded finance era. And I think the banks have an opportunity to get into that context again, or get that context again, and sort of act upon it in a way that they were not able to recently. So the context trade really is about the banks that provide the financial product services working in true partnership with a platform that holds customer information and understand the customer need and can convert on that customer need on behalf of the banks. We usually look at embedded finance as a distribution only mechanism that sort of suggests that the banks have some kind of ownership of that. But I think the whole concept of ownership, of customer ownership, is changing. The whole model of what that means for bank is no longer relevant, and banks should really focus on trading for that context with services and working with a partner to convert.
Yeah, absolutely. The experience has definitely changed, evolved.
Mm.
It's different now. What
Yeah.
do you think that means for primary banking relationships?
So I think the concept of relationships or the word relationships have appeared in strategy documents for the last 30 or 40 years in every bank strategy document. But I'm not sure it means much anymore. I think to me, relationships suggest some kind of a long-term engagement and a commitment for that long-term engagement from both sides. But I don't think that commitment exists anymore. And I think that's where the relationship view, I think, is broken, and where focusing on context and a point in time need, fulfilling that need alongside a partner that actually can identify and clarify that point of need for the customer, is a very different model to the old relationships. And the old relationships, again, suggest ownership as well,
Hmm.
and is built upon cross-selling opportunity. I don't believe cross-sell is going to remain the future of banking. I think we're moving into, again, the context trade, a point in time, a transaction type relationship where somebody has a lot more knowledge about the end customer than the banks do.
Yeah. How do you think then banks should be measuring success if they're not going to rely on those relationships? Or how will they measure success if they're not relying on those relationships?
I think it's about the success of specific partnership. I think banks should be looking at areas of the economy or sectors of the economy that they're feeling very, very comfortable at and understand it, and really try to be the best in class for the needs of that particular segment that they want to play in. Having 300 products on the product portfolio for a bank is no longer gonna cut it.
Mhm.
And in a world of perfect information, which we're very, very quickly moving into, if not there yet, unless you're best in class or top two, top three in a particular excuse me need, then you don't have a right to play. And if you don't have the right to play, then you're probably not using your capital in the most efficient way. So I think banks should really look carefully at where they have a right to play and how they do that, and focus on focus on needs rather than product breadth.
Mm. Yep. Um, Excellent. Interesting take. So what are some, or I guess what is like the silliest thing you've heard about this space, if you will? What are people getting wrong?
Oh, I think what people are getting wrong, and again from the banking side, is that expectation that having a part working with a partner to again fulfill whatever need the end customer has implies an ownership. And I see a lot of banks and partners, talking about that ownership. Well, if we're working together, if I'm onboarding the customer on behalf of that partner, then I have that customer ownership,
Mm.
which again is probably meaningless. And anything that you do in order to, if I can use the word, exploit that relationship, is actually going to hurt your partner and the long-term relationship with the partner, which is much more important than the individual end user for the sustainability of that partnership. So I think that's kind of, instead of focusing on partnership, banks need to focus on solving the real problem, identifying the real problem together with the partner, and build a unique product/solution to solve that need
Hmm.
and problem.
As someone who works in customer success and always dealing with customers, I think that ownership piece that you mentioned, it really tracks. And there's you need to go about it in the right way in terms of supporting clients and things like that.
Yeah, and supporting clients and doing the right thing for the client is the right business
Yeah.
behavior, but it doesn't imply this long-term engagement that a relationship historically meant.
Yep. Yep. Totally. What do you think fintechs should be thinking about in this world?
Again, the same thing. How are you going to be the best in class in what you do, and not try to be everything for everyone. And of course, we have a great example in Revolut that is trying to be everything for everyone, but they're actually the only ones that have some success doing it. And what the long-term ability to remain that everything for everyone is for them, we'll all have to wait and see. But for everyone else, that is not a viable strategy. So pick your battles, and pick your tools, and understand who your partners are, both on the financial infrastructure side or the distribution access to the end user side, and work with the right ones.
Absolutely. Yeah. Having too much or having it all is not always the right way to go in this situation.
Yeah.
Um, that kind of leads into my next question a little bit is, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges in this space or people are dealing with right now?
Data and data. There's a lot of it, but it sits in very various locations. So how do you get, in order to get that context, how do you identify where the right information sits and and how to obtain it and how to embed that into a user journey? And I think a big challenge for us in the financial services industry is to break down on old habits of where data is being collected and where is it being collected from and how and by whom, and really try and be creative about potentially breaking down that process into smaller steps that can be intertwined um, into the customer journey and the customer experience in the most efficient, best, beautiful way. It's not necessarily a one size fits all in terms of data.
Yeah, I think, historically in this space, there's a lot of compliance, there's a lot of regulation, there's all sorts of things related to data. I mean, do you have any like thoughts or opinions on how people should break away from the old and approach it in a new way?
I think the focus needs to be on the outcome. And from my previous conversations with regulators, I think there's also an acceptance from that side that things are changing. And it's not necessarily about who's responsible for action, but there's the overall responsibility for the consumer outcome or the responsibility for the delivery of the financial service. And that's not going to change. But some of the steps along the way, I think most regulators are happy to discuss exactly who obtains what data and where and how that data flows within that workflow,
Mhm.
as long as you can, evidence at the end of the road that you have checked all the boxes and you have discharged all your obligations from a compliance perspective. It's just that it wasn't built the way it was built 50 years ago for when a customer comes to a branch or an app is there and they just spill out all the information as required.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, on the topic of data, everybody's hot list item, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you an AI specific question. So, how do you feel
Yeah.
that AI is actually changing this area of the business? And maybe not just in theory, but actually in practice as well. And, where could it be going?
Well, I think we're seeing a lot of activity, obviously, but at least what I'm seeing is mostly activity on the sort of internal, excuse me, middle and back office processes. So a lot of focus on efficiency, and Meta is laying off, thousands of people
Mhm.
tomorrow, and banks are talking about jobs that are going away, and all in the back office and how much AI can do what some people in the organization are doing. That's all well and good, but I think the more fundamental impact is actually on how customers are going to be using AI tools to make financial decisions. And we're seeing the entry or the doorway to the internet is changing, and it's no longer Google, it's no longer other 25 or 30-year-old websites. It's a 4-year-old website called ChatGPT, or Gemini, or the others, and I think they are developing tools and intelligence that will provide some sort of guidance, and we can discuss whether that guidance is going to be good enough or not. But it is providing guidance, and it doesn't matter what we in the industry think about it. What matters is how consumers are going to use it.
Absolutely.
And ChatGPT acquiring Hero and latest partnership with Plaid
Mhm.
means that a lot of that intelligence and tools are going to be provided by non-financial institutions. Extend that beyond consumers to businesses, and you'll see, I think, vertical SaaS companies, and one of my favorite is Toast, providing AI agents to cover a lot of the workflow functionality that they have, including the financial services aspects of it. So if you're a restaurant owner and you realize that you need 10K to cover for tomorrow's service, then you won't even know. The Toast will present that to you even before you realize that you have the need
Mm,
and the ability to close that with their financial partners. So why would you ever use an AI agent that is delivered by a bank? So I think banks are trying too much to create the next generation chatbots and advice and everything else. But will customers use it?
yeah, 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 very interesting. It's definitely the AI experience is moving up way more to the forefront, if you will, with obviously from the consumer engagement piece.
Yeah.
And then, so where do the banks sit in that partnership down the line? One of the things that we think about
Well,
is,
I think, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, I think from a bank perspective, they need to be able to operate at machine speed and understand how to deal with those agents, how to be visible
Mm,
to those agents, and that's going back to my earlier point about being best in class in a small number of products will give you that chance to be at the forefront of an independent AI agent looking to solve a particular problem.
hmm. Yeah. One of the things that we think about is using ChatGPT or another LLM as a finance tool, but it still puts a lot of effort on the human interaction to connect all of their financial accounts. So, how do you think,
Yeah.
how do we make that easier?
Well, I don't know if ChatGPT is going to be, or the Gemini, or the main sort of
Mm,
foundational model providers are going to be the tools further down the line. I think they are now absorbing a lot of the experimentation because of their size and the engagement but at the end of the day, when you look at what they're going to give you, is the average of the whole of the human interaction on the internet. So it's going to be an average kind of advice that feels okay, but it isn't necessarily as good as somebody that has a very good understanding of a particular problem. And if we go back again to a vertical SaaS provider that knows a particular sector is very well, and I know we're talking about B2B and not necessarily consumer,
mhm,
but I think you can see the similarities. But on the B2B side, understanding a particular workflow in a sector is the kind of deep knowledge and context that the LLMs don't necessarily have. So I think we'll start at the main providers, but niche
mm.
solutions will migrate into niche providers.
Yeah, I love that take. I couldn't agree more with your perspective on that. It's a lot of still very like generic and average recommendations for a while. So, um, the development of
But
that
again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we think about it. It
true.
matters what the users think about it. And that's another challenge for the regulators who will see the boundaries of the industry blurring even more.
Yes, but it's all about those outcomes, right? So, I so appreciated hearing everything you had to say, talking about context, data, relationships, outcomes. Like all these things are so meaningful. We've talked about this a little bit or a lot, if you will. Stuff is evolving and figuring out how to give the best consumer experience or focus on the best outcomes is always the most important thing. So, appreciate all of your perspective on that. For our final question, a little fun one here, but what is your non-business wheelhouse right now? What are you a little obsessed with outside of work?
So my religion is basketball. And June is the best time to be a basketball junkie like myself. So I am up all night watching the playoffs. Yesterday was game one, OKC and San Antonio Spurs. Uh, and honestly, I am not sure how to describe what I saw last night. We're talking about the future of finance. I witnessed, like everybody else, like millions of others, the future of basketball, and it is not what I expected it to be. It is alien. So,
Yeah.
I mean, wow, wow.
Who are you
Yeah.
rooting for, or who do you think is going to win the series? It could be two different answers.
Ooh. So first of all, my team is the Dallas Mavericks.
Mhm.
And go Mavs.
Go
Mavs fan for life. Doesn't change. So that puts me in a difficult position because I kind of want the other Texan
Mavs.
team to win, which is hard for me to say. Um, but I am not going to put a bet against Wemby or against Shea on this one. It is too close to tell, as we saw just yesterday.
Yeah, a lot more basketball left, so more to
Not
come on.
enough. Not enough. In a couple
Yeah,
of weeks, it'll be gone. And it's World Cup and 22 guys running after a ball. Who cares about that?
yeah.
And I'm
Well,
from England.
yeah, I know. How did you become such a NBA fan?
I grew up on American sports. That's it. I play basketball 3 times a week. I coach basketball. I watch basketball. I read basketball. I dream basketball.
Well, it's hard to dream it if you're awake late night watching those games on Central Time.
True, true. But what I saw yesterday was like a dream.
I love that. Yeah. Well, as a fellow Mainer, go Mavs, go Cooper Flag. I support you in that all the way. So
Go Cooper.
go.
Yes. Lovely chap, but unfortunate to be living in the age of Wemby.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it'll be a battle. So.
No,
Um,
but we'll see. We'll see. He's got a long career.
Yeah. So, Shoal, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciated learning all about what you had to share. And then, of course, the NBA highlights. We'll have to see what happens. We'll have to reconvene for round three of this in a couple of weeks to see
Let's
what's
let's
up there.
let's do that, Megan. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.